everyone, and welcome to the League One Lowdown podcast here on the Deck Network. Myself, Jamie Johnson, here as always with Seb Jones. Seb, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yes, very good, thank you. For those, I guess, watching, you can see that I'm in a slightly vertical position today. I've had a few technical hiccups, but yeah, it means that I'm on my phone. But nevertheless, I'm still here, still ready to chat about a full rush of the League One. Obviously, we had the international break last weekend, so had a couple of games called off, but back to full fixture this week.
Yeah, back to normal and both back to football for us. I was at the Wigan game, and that's all I'm going to talk about from the Doncaster Wigan game. And you were at the Barnsley game, which we're going to talk about later on in the episode, but plenty to discuss, as always. And we're going to start with the West Yorkshire derby. It finished 3-1 to Bradford City against Huddersfield Town, of course, and 2 goals in first half injury time, sealing the win for the home side. That was really the key, wasn't it? There was 2 goals in very quick succession just before the break. It was 3-0, and at that point, it was game over.
Absolutely, yeah. It was, yeah. Sort of right towards the second half, they obviously got that second goal. Sort of just a few minutes before the half-time whistle blew, and then literally more or less straight from kick-off, got that second sucker punch blow, and meant that Huddersfield went in 3-0 down at half-time, and then, as you said, sort of game over really. But that sort of shows the force that Bradford are to be reckoned with so far this season. Really, that we've spoken on here many times about the quality that Huddersfield possess, and obviously they've had such a great start to the season as well. But actually, the past couple of weeks have seemed to sort of trip over sides when they've been tested. Speak about Barnsley last time out before the international break, sort of. Putting a bit of a stumbling block to Huddersfield's great start, and then Bradford continued that. There was a bit of sort of a joke in terms of sort of across social media prior to the game in terms of North Yorkshire football derby, but obviously there was quite a
Oh,
few
the
jokes.
Northern
The
football, yeah,
Northern
the
football,
Huddersfield,
yeah.
the I think it was their owner, wasn't it? The American owner they've got, who's in the summer said they want to play Northern football, and that obviously got a lot of people up in arms with what is Northern football.
Well, exactly that. Yeah, it's just sort of, and so there was quite a funny full-time graphic from Bradford when they obviously won the Northern Football Derby, shall we say? But yeah, it was a very dominant display, especially in that first half, as you mentioned, sort of grabbing the 3 goals. They'll be disappointed to concede in that second half, Bradford, but nevertheless a very strong performance, and especially that first goal, quality finish on there in terms of the build-up play and the passage play from Bradford down that right-hand side. Great sort of build-up for that one. So yeah, Bradford continuing to impress.
Yeah, definitely. Like Redmond scored a consolation goal for Huddersfield. That's all it was in the end, 10 minutes from time. But the work, as we've said there, was done in the first half. The front three as well, with the real key to things. Sarcevic had 2 assists, Swan one assist, and Poynting had 2 goals, including the one you mentioned there, Seb. He almost had a third as well. He sort of wanged a foot out to try and tap the ball home, but no field. The ball went in anyway. It sort of went in without a touch and ended up in the back of the net. They go level on points with Cardiff at the top of the table, and they are unbeaten at home. They have a 100% record at Valley Parade, beating Luton, Wimbledon, and Wycombe. And now, of course, their rivals Huddersfield as well. Where Huddersfield, on their part, they're down to sixth. 3 losses so far this season. That is the interesting aspect for it, isn't it? That they are not unbeatable. And when Doncaster played them, well, we'd lost 2-0 away from home. But in that first half, miles the better team, Doncaster, and didn't capitalise on their chances. So it shows that if you play well against Huddersfield and you take your chances, they're a very capable team to beat, despite the quality they have and the quality and depth they have. If you play well against them, you can definitely come out on the right side of it.
Yeah, which is something that Lee Grant won't like in terms of the Huddersfield sort of gaffer that's in there at the moment. But absolutely, yes, despite their great start to the season, actually, they've fallen to quite more defeats than they would have liked, I think, at this stage. So yes, they are absolutely beatable. And I guess if you catch them on a bad day, then which Bradford and Barnsley in the past 2 game weeks have, then yeah, sort of the guaranteed 3 points aren't there. But that would be a concern in terms of Huddersfield slipping up, especially in the manner that they have. Both. 3-1 defeats, both against Derby Day opponents as well in the last two league games. So that's got to hurt for Huddersfield. So yeah, it does show that they are beatable, which is not really a sign of a great side in this league. But again, obviously early stage of the season still, but some concerns there for Huddersfield to me.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think the main concern out of this game, as well as obviously the result, was the timings of those goals. To concede two goals within a minute, 2 minutes of each other in first half injury time, it is just a complete sign of switching off, isn't it, really? That they're trying to get into the break 1-0. I mean, 2-0 is bad enough, and then they add the third, and the game is done before you get in for the halftime team talk. And that has got to be something that is addressed. I'm sure Lee Grant, you mentioned he was unhappy. He would be unhappy in terms of the results. He's got to be unhappy in terms of the manner of it as well, conceding those couple so close to half time, because they had some early chances. They looked good in the early goings, and then as soon as Bradford got that first goal, they really sort of kicked on from there and looked very impressive. But Huddersfield, yeah, that has got to be a concern for me. The two goals in such quick concession just before the break.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned sort of having opportunities. Joe Taylor actually had sort of had the game's first chance in terms of he hit the crossbar in the opening stages, and from then on in, really, Bradford sort of took advantage and had the better chances. But the game could have been a different story if he'd have sort of taken his chance, as you probably would have backed him to, really. But yeah, that in terms of conceding two goals in such a short space of time, and especially just before half time as well, really disappointing. But yeah, they have to use these past two results as a bit of a springboard, and in terms of reflection, I know they've had the international break to work on stuff on the training ground, but evidently more work needs doing.
Exactly that. The other thing to bring out of this game is the attendance. 24,075, the highest in modern day history at Valley Parade. So it's the sign of a really a club in the right direction and moving in the right direction. And they have a lot of things going for them at the minute. Bradford up in second place as well on their return to the division. And obviously happy times for them. And finally, some happy times for Peterborough United as well. Their first win of the season. We've got two teams who finally got the monkey off their back on Saturday. Peterborough, the first of the pair, beating Wycombe Wanderers 2-1 and fighting through adversity to do it, Seb. Darren Ferguson saying 6 or 7 of his starters aren't match fit, but they managed to get the 3 points against Wycombe.
Yeah, and they will be absolutely relieved to finally get that first win of the season. It's not been a good start at all for Peterborough so far this season, and there's been doubts and been question marks at Darren Ferguson, and rightly so, and the board as well, Darren McAntony, again rightly so. I think been a disappointing start. Players not sort of gelling as they would have liked, and perhaps they might have done it in previous years, but finally got that win. Well deserved, I think, in the end on the balance of play. As you said, sort of through adversity as well, makes this victory even more sweeter, I think, in terms of grabbing those 3 points. And yeah, I guess bigger picture, rather than just looking at the game, but bigger picture, they'll be over the moon to finally get the first league win of the season.
Yeah, no, it's exactly that. The big picture is that it is hugely important for Peter, and they hope it's a sort of a seminal moment for their season that they can now use it to kick on and use it as a springboard, as you often say, Seb. That can be the point for them where they are able now to turn their season and they can go, oh, there's something in this team. We have the ability to do it, and we have done it, and now we can go on and replicate that for weeks to come. We'll look bigger picture as well at Wycombe in a second. The game itself, it was a great long ranger for the first goal, Garbutt with that one, and before Morgan reacted quickest to a loose ball in the box for the second, both before the break. Defensively, though, they're still not quite there because despite creating a lot of chances and looking a real threat on the other side of things, they were a little bit shaky. And the goal for Wycombe came from that a ball bouncing around the box and no one could really clear it. And it sort of stabbed home in the end. They remain bottom on goal difference, Peterborough, but they're only 1 point behind Wycombe, who are in 19th. They won, obviously, last week against Mansfield, and we thought perhaps that they were going back to basics, and Mike Dodds had said that in terms of it needs perhaps just simplifying, and things have been a bit too much change over recent weeks and months, and they managed to get that win, and then they come to Peterborough, who were obviously struggling as well, and they aren't able to replicate that. So the issues deepening, really, aren't they, at Adams Park?
Yes, it's got to be concerned. We mentioned in terms of Peter's poor start of the season, you can probably say the exact same for Wycombe in terms of things haven't really gelled to them either. We there were signs at the end of last season, but not big enough, I guess, to see it off Mike Dodds. But they have sort of come to fruition, I think, some of these concerns even more so far this season. And yes, it's got to be a concern in terms of Wycombe and in terms of the results that they're getting and the league table. We know we seem to sort of be on repeat in terms of it is still early days, but for a team like Wycombe that was sort of in the playoff area last season to be where they are at the moment, it it's got to be a disappointment, I think, really, in terms of the quality they possess, what they are capable of is far better than where they are. So yes, I guess big credit to Peterborough for the win, but actually there's still issues at both sides in terms of Peterborough and Wycombe as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mean, we spoke obviously before that we don't expect Mike Dodds to be in any sort of trouble for his job because they are too far down this line, really, to reset now. They've gone so they're in too deep in terms of this style of play to vacate the situation now. Darren Ferguson is someone that could well be in trouble, and a victory like this is really important for him as much as it is for Peterborough, and being able to build on that is critical over the next few weeks for them. We'll move on to the other team that finally got their first win of the season, that Port Vale, and perhaps to give ourselves a little bit of credit, we sort of semi-predicted it last week, didn't we? Because we spoke about how well they looked in places and how they were positive signs out of that game against Leyton Orient. And those positive signs have turned into a victory 7 days on. It was 2-0 against Exeter City. The first goal coming from a defensive error, it has to be said, on Exeter's part. But Devante Cole scored the second, finishing off a really nice counter-attacking move. He has 2 in 2. I called him the deal of deadline day last week, and he scored again, so I was chuffed to bits with that. But Port Vale, more importantly, finally get their first win.
Yes, what do you say? The monkey off the camel's back in terms of Darren Moore grabbing his first league
You
victory.
put two together there, haven't
Well,
you?
that's true. Yeah. That's why I leave the catchphrases for you, Jimmy.
Mm.
But yeah. In terms of finally getting that first League One of the season, they have impressed so far in parts so far this season, but just have been unable to grab that victory and grab those 3 points. But actually, they managed to do that on Saturday. And Devante Cole, you mentioned there, scoring yet again. Both goals came in that first half, and I guess sort of a game of two halves in terms of scoring twice in that first half and then just hanging on in that second half, to prevent any sort of extra threat and any attack of even a sniff at goal, really, from a Vale point of view. So yeah, I'm sure Dan Moore will be really pleased with the result, and they can finally breathe a sigh of relief in terms of getting that first 3 points of the season, and well deserved as well. Against an Exeter City side who are no mugs really in terms of, yes, they are inconsistent, but actually they've beaten quality teams in the past so far this season as well. Sort of emphatically beat Peterborough 3-0. It does mean now, actually, this result that they've now lost the last two back to back, but they are just an inconsistent side, Exeter, that do possess quality on their day, and we have seen that so far this season. So I guess credit to Vale for getting past an Exeter City side that have the capabilities to outdo you and to bring defeat. But Darren Moore's side stood strong. Devante Cole as well. We mentioned him last week. I know you tipped him as sort of the deal of the transfer window, but actually, you're right in terms of the quality he possesses. Slightly biased, I know, because former Barnsley man, but actually he is a quality League One striker. He will score goals. He will chase balls up front, and Port Vale have grabbed themselves a great option up front. and
Yeah.
working closely with Darren Moore. Got himself a good manager in there, a manager that knows his level. He got a player that knows his level, and so far he seems to be working perfectly.
Yes, deal of deadline day. Indeed, they scored with both shots on target in the game, Port Vale. They only had 30% possession, but managing to keep a clean sheet. It was a proper away performance. Backs against the wall at times. Exeter had their chances, really pushed in the second half, but none of those really transpiring into um, great opportunities for a goal, it would be said. You mentioned two losses in a row. It's three defeats out of their last four, and they've all been to nil. And that is a show to exactly your point you made there, Seb, in terms of their inconsistency. They've scored nine and conceded nine so far this season, which on the face of it looks ordinary, but it's in their wins they're winning 2-0, they're winning 3-0, and then in their defeats they're losing 2-3-0. So that really shows the two ends of the spectrum for them. And when they're not on it, they really aren't on it. And this game perhaps wasn't an example of that because, as I said, they had their chances, but really didn't um, provide enough of a threat. And Port Vale made the most of the chances they had. We mentioned how good that counter-attacking goal was. It was obviously a nice finish from Devante Cole as he ran from almost the halfway line to slot the ball in. But it was a great ball to him in the first place. And the first goal was a capitalising on a really poor defensive error. So that they're inconsistent. I don't know how many times we can say it, Exeter, but that is really the top and bottom of it
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and they were last season as well. Really, it's just something that they've not really been able to shake off in terms of just getting that good run of results consecutively. They just haven't been able to do that. Yeah, some teams are like that. There's sort of no getting over that. Some teams just struggle to back to back get good wins on the bounce or get positive results, and that's sort of the face of it. Really, that's sort of how the cookie crumbles sometimes. But it's got to be annoying, really. If I was an Exeter City fan, it's got to be annoying in terms of rocking up on a match day, never quite knowing if you're gonna
Yeah.
comfortably beat a side 3-0, or as you said, sort of lose 3-0, and both of which sort of bring different reactions to that. And yeah, it's got to be annoying, I think, the inconsistency. But yeah, it's just one of those. They have to be more consistent, but they are consistently inconsistent.
Very good. Our next game is perhaps game. I'm going to call it game of the day. I think you might have a shout yourself in terms of the Barnsley Reading game. It was the same scoreline. It went the opposite way in terms of the away side winning. Plymouth Argyle won 3-2 at Luton Town, and there is a whole host of talking points from this one. So bear with us. We'll go them, I guess, one by one. But first on the overall, it's a very important victory uh, for Plymouth, and they really have turned a corner over the past couple of weeks. Ibrahim, the star of the show, he had a couple. Tolaj put a really nice cross in for the first goal as well, so it's showing he is doing his bit for the cause as well. It was a nice finish from Ibrahim for his first goal. The winner was a huge stroke of luck as a clearance just smacked him on the back of the head and nestled in the bottom corner. An unbelievable goal, really. It's something that you couldn't do if you were trying to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If they were trying to hit the ball off the back of his head and landed in the bottom corner, they wouldn't have been able to do it. I mean, a superb end-to-end dramatic game. And the drama brings us on to I've got five main incidents. So the referee had a very busy afternoon. He sent
Yeah.
Tom Cleverley off as well, which doesn't even count as one of the five incidents. So plenty to go through. Oliver Yates was the referee. The first one. So there were two penalties given. Both of Luton's goal were penalties. Are we ready, Seb? It's like a pop quiz. This.
Yes. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Go
This
through
is
them.
this is this is a good test of my memory here. Right. Let's go for it. Yeah.
We'll go yes or no. So the decision for the first one, it was a penalty. A weirdo. It was an elbow jumping up for a header. Elbow towards the face of the Luton attacker. Penalty given. Correct? Yes or no?
Do you know what? Yes, but I'm surprised it was only a yellow card,
Oh,
given
okay.
given similar. I've seen similar in terms of a high elbow when jumping up for a ball. I've seen red card given for that one. So yes, I agree it was a penalty, but I don't agree with the yellow card. I think it should have been a red card. I think he's got away with that. Why do?
I think that's interesting. I didn't. I didn't think of that really. That perhaps it should have been a red card. And I mean, that's an interesting point. It was a reckless sort of
Yeah,
leap,
yeah.
arm extended out.
The
So
only,
yeah,
the only thing, I guess it's that double jeopardy, isn't it? I think anywhere else on the pitch, I think it would have been a red card, but because obviously it gave Luton the advantage of the penalty, I think that's where double jeopardy comes into play. I think maybe sort of the examples of elsewhere where I've seen sort of a high elbow have just been like in the middle of the pitch
mm.
in where a red card has been given.
Yeah, it was a bit of a
But
weird challenge to be making
it
and sort of
was,
jumping in like
yeah,
that.
it was a little bit, and yeah, yeah. So I'm surprised the red card wasn't given, but bottom line is yes, it was a penalty.
Yes, so so he's got one right so far. The referee. The second one was for holding in the box, and that one given as well. I guess I think that was a little soft, but how many times did we talk about it last week in terms of these sort of decisions? And it's copy and paste. I think it is just. I think that is just what is going to happen when these sort of things come through.
You know what? As soon as I saw this one, I was like, Jamie's not going to be happy with this one. Jamie's not going to be, given our conversation last week, Jamie's not going to be too pleased with this. But yeah, I do think it was a penalty. I think, yeah, there was too much contact on there at the far post, and rightly so, yeah, that the ref awarded it a spot kick.
The third one was the red card. This one from Edwards, who was sent off Plymouth. Before I describe it, what did you make to it? Because I've so the words I've written down to describe it give away what I feel about it.
Yeah, I would think it was red card. Bottom line, I think he's quite harsh. He's quite reckless from the Plymouth captain. Really, yeah, I think it was red card. Reckless, really. I think went in
Yeah,
very late, and at that point you can't. He only gives the referee one option, really.
yeah, no, I agree. I've gone two-footed. He's missed the ball. I mean, it's just an horrendous tackle. So the referee doing well so far. We've got both penalty decisions right, and we've got the red card right. And then here comes to the two penalties that weren't given, both again for Luton. I don't think I've ever seen a game where there's been so many penalty shouts just for one team. But the next one, so Ali was booked for diving. He did for mine when he went down a bit softly, but I think there's as much contact as there was for the second penalty that was given. What did you make to that one? I think this
You know
one
what?
is interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to slightly back out of this one here. In that I did see it on the replay, but not well enough to give
It
it
wasn't a great angle, was it?
a
The angle was sort
verdict.
of front
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, it was sort of happening in that far corner, sort of left hand side. So I, I don't know. I saw it in real time. It's one of those where you couldn't really see it properly. So either way, I'd have gone with really. So I'm gonna I'm gonna do that one that everyone hates people when they just back out of a decision. But that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do what the referee should have done, just back out, and he did. In fairness, well, he didn't get he gave the foul the elf the other
You
way, didn't he? But he
get the yellow
should have
card.
just let play run, I think, and sort of just back out of and make a decision. But yeah, I couldn't. It wouldn't be fair to comment in terms of I didn't quite see
Yeah,
it from the
yeah.
best
The angle
angle.
was pretty poor on the sort of the static camera. So we'll give the referee the benefit of that. He's doing well here, the referee. Yeah,
Hey, that's not to say we're really good at making decisions.
and the final one, then this one, this is the only one for me that I think the referee got wrong. I'm going to sort of put my flag to the mast there because this was Galloway, the substitute, who took down Nelson. He rushed across in front of him. Again, I think your argument, Seb, not to preempt too much, is going to be that the angle was pretty poor as well. We're sort of from behind it, and you can't see if he's got the ball or not fully, but he doesn't look like he's got the ball at all, and he's definitely got the man. So I think there's enough in that to award that as a penalty because he shot a shot across Nelson and blocked him off with his body. I think that one's a penalty, personally.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Sort of regarding the camera angle. Yes, I can see why you think that. I just don't think. I don't know. I just think it's it's two sort of bodies coming across each other. I'm not quite sure. I think maybe the attacker's made a bit much of it, or I can see what you mean in terms of when the defender coming across. I don't. Yeah. It's one of those. It's one of those where the classic you've seen and given, but then also the referee's already given two penalties in the game. So I'm not quite sure how much he would have sort of like the attention or having a third one. Yeah, but that shouldn't be a reason for not giving a penalty. a foul is a foul at the end of the day, and should warrant a penalty kick. Yeah, undecided, I think, which again
Go on, well,
is
go
an
on.
absolutely cop out.
So pick a side of the fence.
I'll go penalty actually, because if it was a penalty, then it would have benefited the entertainment of the game, and I guess benefited Luton as well.
Yes, I mean we've got 4 out of 5 there for the referee. It's a very hard gig. I mean, I know we sort of jest about it there a little bit, but he had an awful lot of decisions to make in that game, and it's a pretty hostile atmosphere at the best of times at Kenilworth Road. So he's done a good job. I mean, we only talk about referees when there has been a problem. So I think they do deserve the credit where they've made a collection of good decisions. I guess to open the discussion up to the game after a little bit of a pop quiz on the refereeing decisions there, this is a huge victory for Plymouth, isn't it? And it really puts them back where they are wanting to be in terms of pushing forward. And that defeat to Cardiff a couple of weeks ago has really seemingly kicked them into gear, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned this earlier on in terms of they've got very fortunate in terms of their winning goal, in terms of the ricochet and the deflection off Ibrahim into the back of the net, but that's not sort of avoiding the fact that they deserve to win this one. That the result gives them a massive uplift, massive boost in terms of recovering from that poor start to the season. And against a solid side like Luton, who themselves have had a pretty overall sort of solid start to the season, so to grab a victory, and now that makes it now 3 victories in a row for Tom Cleverley's side.
It's
And
no competitions, yeah.
yeah, and as we said, after such a difficult start, that is exactly what the doctor ordered in terms of finally getting those good results. And yeah, it's better from Plymouth, and as you mentioned, sort of where they want to be really in terms of towards the top of the league, following their poor start, and they can use the 3 wins on the bounce in all competitions as a bit of a boost going forward. And I know some of the victories, you sort of don't like, in cup competitions against Morecambe and against Morecambe, and then obviously the emphatic 4-2 against Stockport. So some of them, especially Morecambe, won't not be that highly looked upon, but actually a win to win, and it will do lots for the morale, and yeah, it's got to be a good thing for Tom Cleverley's side.
Well, Stockport is our next team to discuss. They drew 1-1 with Cardiff City and performed much better in this one. Actually, they should have been out of sight really before the late equaliser from Salvage. We're going to come to talking about that goal because there are a couple of bits, especially in terms of Courier Dye's involvement in the goal, to discuss. But yeah, Stockport County played really well, and we spoke about how they have struggled over the past few weeks, and the results have sort of lagged behind reducing performance levels, and they play better in this game, but only get the draw. I think the only sort of fault you could pass to them, as well as obviously the fact that they didn't put away their chances, was that they shut up shop slightly too early. That I spoke to someone at the game, and that's what they brought forward. That if they'd have carried on, they might have got that second goal, and then the game is dead. But they sort of let the pressure come to them, and then the goal comes right at the end. Oliver Norwood scoring the Stockport goal from the spot. We'll copy and paste everything we said about those sort of penalties last week. They are just going to become a theme, I think, of this pushing, the holding in the box being punished a lot more harshly. That was the same situation there with the cross coming in. The Stockport attacker was being held, goes down, penalty given, and converted by Oliver Norwood. Cardiff, they remain top with the point. On the goal then, Courier Dye, he comes for it and then he decides he doesn't want to come for it, and he stands and he's caught in two minds. He's not gone to the ball and to Salic. He's not stayed on his line to try and save it, and he's in the middle, and it's an easy header to flick in. So I'm putting the blame at the door of the goalkeeper in terms of that late equaliser for Cardiff.
Yeah, I can absolutely see why as well. He's sort of caught in no man's land, really. He's indecisive, really, in terms of what he does, and you don't want that. You don't need that right at the end of the game, really. When you 1-0 up against a side that are towards the top end of the table, what you don't want your goalkeeper doing in the last few seconds of the game is sort of deciding whether he should come get the ball or stay, or just being caught in two minds, really. You want a goalkeeper that commands his box and commands any decision that he makes, and that's just not this game. That's sort of seems to be a recurring theme with Corey Dye. Yes, he's really good with his feet and in terms of distribution, in terms of long balls forward, but actually sometimes he just doesn't do the simple things right. He doesn't command his box very well, and Exhibit A, and it's cost Stockport 3 points this time, which they will be gutted about, really, in terms of dominating throughout most of the game, not giving Cardiff too much of a sniff, but then gifting them an equaliser towards the end of the game. So yeah, disappointing from Corey Dye. Not the first time we've seen this from the Stockport goalkeeper either. But yes, sort of goalkeepers make mistakes, and that's something you have to accept and move on. But it's not great goalkeeping from a Dye there.
Yeah, exactly that. Only one win in their last five for Stockport. That coming against Wolverhampton Wanderers under 21s in the EFL Trophy. So they're definitely on a poor patch of form in terms of results. But as I mentioned, they should have got something out of this game. How well they were playing and how many chances they did create. But Cardiff remain top of the table. They're the only team in the division still unbeaten. It's 5 wins and 2 draws for them. They've conceded just 2 goals all season long, 7 games into it. They continue to impress, don't they? It's the top and bottom of it.
Yeah, and it shows absolutely that we know nothing about League One football, given we put the Cardiff manager, the one of the sort of favourites to be sacked first, and now look where they
Yeah,
are.
well, I think to clarify that, I mean, we've gotten a few pelters, and fairly so. I mean, they've
Yeah,
started the season very well. That we, in our pre-season ranking of managers in the division,
yeah,
Brian Barry Murphy came bottom because, for my part, is that he hasn't won anything yet. He hasn't done anything yet in his career, so it's very hard to rank him. That was my point of view. Very hard to rank him any higher than that because there's so many other managers in the division who have been there, who have done it, and have proven themselves at this level. He's beginning to prove himself at this level. So if we do it in next summer and they continue on this streak, obviously he's going to be much higher up the list because he's been there and done it. So that's my thing on it, is that I don't think there was any concerns of him getting sacked at all in these early goings of the season, but that he hasn't done it yet, I think is the clarification worth while. But they've started the season very well, and I guess to pass back to on in terms of how well they're playing and the style of play. We expected, I think myself and Sam, maybe in particular, to lump him in with me, was that this style of play would take a long time to get used to. And that has not been the case at all. They've got used to it, the Cardiff players, so quickly, and they're immediately up the top end of the table.
yeah, and I guess sort of as well. I guess just to piggyback on that in terms of Brian Barry Murphy's only real other manager I suppose was at Rochdale, and that was a bit of a flop as well. So I guess the perceived thing at the start of the season in terms of ranking, I guess was valid at the time, but absolutely sort of doing his best to prove us wrong in terms of Cardiff's great start to the season. It's 5 victories out of 7 so far this season, 12 goals for, as you said, Jimmy, only 2 against, and yeah, it's been an absolute cracking start to the season for Cardiff. They have a style of play that the players have seemed to pick up pretty quickly. It seems to work for them. Seems to just possess a real sort of danger about them, really, in terms of whenever they're coming forward. They've got the ability to beat teams pretty comfortably. Obviously, beat Plymouth a couple of weeks ago 4-0. So they can pump teams if they have to, and they have the quality in their ranks to do so as well. And yeah, it's been a flying start to the season for Cardiff, and long may it continue. I think from the Bluebirds' perspective, and yeah, it's been absolutely, as you said, sort of they've taken like a duck to water, these players, in terms of getting used to Brian Barry Murphy's style of play and how he runs and how he works, and that's what's been needed. I think after a disappointing couple of seasons. I know they only came down in the summer after a poor championship season, but even the year before wasn't that good in the championship. So after a poor couple of seasons, they've needed sort of a manager to come in, make that difference, play better football, and we've seen that already so far with Cardiff.
Yeah, exactly that. And another team who've started the season well, of course, is Barnsley. They're third in the table, just the 1 point behind those top two. And they beat Reading this weekend 3-2. It's their first win at Oakwell against Reading for 26 years. They're unbeaten so far at home this season, and they started each half of the game very well. That's what Conor Horahan said after the match, and that is always a very good sign, isn't it? That you're starting a game and then starting the second half very well. So a good victory, 3 goals, 3 points for
Yeah.
Barnsley.
Yeah, absolutely. On the face of it, yeah, good victory. I think in terms of what you said, that's good and that's bad in terms of starting both halves well. In terms of the first 20 minutes of both the first half and the second half was some of the best football balance they've played so far this season. In terms of their attacking intent, in terms of going forward, in terms of utilising that wing play, and getting sort of a nice build up and ball into the box. But on the flip side of that, it does mean that actually the second half of both halves was nail biting to watch in terms of Barnsley just seemed to sit back and let Reading come on to them really, and yeah, defensively, in fairness, they held strong, but it wasn't good for the blood pressure. I'll tell you that. In terms of as you mentioned, just let Reading come forward. Reading had several chances. Barnsley just seemed to get caught in their trap really, and yeah, they're fortunate that they did start both halves really strongly. They're also sort of Reading were fortunate in terms of the equalising goal that was given their way after Murphy Cooper came out of his 18-yard area, sort of looking for the coming to collect the overhead ball and
It's
just
worth
caught him.
pausing there, isn't it? With the goal, that is the other thing I wanted to say. That
Yeah,
that second goal, oh my word,
yeah,
it is the worst goalkeeping I think I've seen all season. It was
yeah. It's
unbelievable. He's come out miles, hasn't he?
yeah,
The Barnsley keeper. He's come all the way to almost the edge of the pitch,
yeah,
and then instead of just hoofing the ball out of Oakwell, he just stands there and lets the ball roll past him. And Jack Marriott picked it up, and it's a really nice finish actually.
yeah. Really nice. Yeah, yeah,
Scoops
yeah,
it
yeah.
in to the goal. I just don't. He made the ground. I don't think he should have probably gone for it anyway. But in fairness to him, he got there. Why has he not just hoofed it out?
Yeah, I think he was caught in. It was caught in two minds as to what to do with it. Whether to hoof it out, like you said, or there was some Barnsley players just sort of in field a little bit with no Reading sort of pressure. So I think he wasn't sure whether to hoof it or sort of pass it in field to them, and Barnsley perhaps could have countered from that, but he did neither. And he just sort of, I said, just sort of stood there, and Jack Marriott picked his pocket and superbly curled it into the far corner. As you said, I think he just got caught in two minds, and yeah, it's really annoying in terms of at that point in play, Reading had lots of opportunities, but Barnsley stood firm. But then to concede the way that we did, I think it was a concern and slightly disappointing. But then to come back and as you said, sort of start the second half much better. I think it was good, and a couple 2 goals in 4 minutes. I think it was. Keel done with a nice little header after some really nice play down the left hand side, and then Adam Phillips with a penalty, to make it a 3-1 at the time, and then there was a late strike, a good decent strike from distance as well from Reading, but Barnsley stood firm, and yeah, continue that their strong start to the season under Conor Horahan. But yeah, definitely one for the old cliche. It's like a basketball game. Well, that was like a basketball game. Just sort of kept going back and forth. Both sides had a lot of chances, and yeah, fortunately, Barnsley stood firm for the 3 points.
Exactly that. And before we do what we usually do and talk about the other results at the end of the podcast, we wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk about Bolton Wanderers. It's proof that we read the comments. I do want to sort of make that admission. So if you do think we've sort of missed talking about your club or we should be talking about something, do put it in the comments because we're always happy for that feedback. And someone put in the comments last week that we haven't talked about Bolton, so we're going to talk about Bolton. They're in 12th, 5 draws so far this season, a loss and 2 victories. Obviously, that massive changing of the guard in the summer with a lot of the older players leaving, a lot of young players coming in. So there is that changeover, and that does take time. It could be a lot worse than it is. Those draws are sort of keeping it looking better, I think, would be my view on it. They have drawn 1-1 with Lincoln, where they scored a late goal, an own goal, actually, in the 97th minute. At the weekend, they drew to Leyton Orient, where they scored, again, a very late goal and an unbelievable strike it was as well, from Kozira Dubro. If you haven't seen that, do find that out. Go to the weekend for sure. And they've also drawn 1-1 with Blackpool, Reading, and Barnsley. And in the Barnsley game, again, they scored a pretty late goal. So there is a theme in that, not only that they're drawing a lot of games, but in those draws, they're scoring late and salvaging points, which is obviously a positive in terms of it shows they're fighting till the end and they're not giving up and blah, blah, blah. But it also shows that perhaps they're getting a little bit lucky in situations, that they aren't being the better team in the game and they're scraping a point out of it come the end. So that, I think, is my overall take forehand to you, Seb, in terms of Bolton, that it is probably looks better than it is how they've started this season. And as I say, they're sitting 12th.
Yeah, and well, I mentioned earlier on in terms of it wasn't good for the blood pressure of the Barnsley Reading game. It must not be good for the blood pressure if you're a Bolton fan, scoring late in quite a lot of games so far this season, albeit to rescue something from the game. But yeah, it's a good rhythm to get into in terms of scoring late and salvaging stuff from the game. But also, it's sort of that it's not good to always be in a position where you are behind in the game in the first place. So it sort of swings and roundabout in terms of, do you see it as a negative or a positive? But they are 12. They have had, which is mid-table. They have had a lot of change over summer. There has been a lot of ins and outs, and obviously manager's still pretty new, obviously joining the back end of last season. So it's been a summer of change. You can never really expect them to get firing straight away. But you're right in terms of, I think the draws do sort of mask in terms of the performances, grabbing the late goals, mask in terms of, games are played over 90 minutes rather than just sort of the last few minutes in terms of when Bolton get the goal, and a bit more consistency over a long period of time, I think, for Bolton is needed. But also time and patience is needed, which I think most fans are on side with. Obviously, there has been a few disappointing performances, but they have been able to rescue a point from a lot of those. So it sort of, swings around about, as I said. But yeah, they can be considerably happy or moderately happy, I think, with the start to the season.
That's interesting. And I think the other thing to bring out, Alex Laws, who writes about Bolton for the Football League World, wrote an article, I think, last week about how they are in a much better place in terms of attacking depth. They have a much more a wider variety of options at the top end of the pitch, and that has been a real strength of the summer recruitment. They're more dynamic, is the word I would also attach to it, in terms of the options they have up top, and that is a positive. And that summer spree in terms of the signings they made will, I think, come good. I don't know if you agree with that, Seb, in terms of these new signings will translate eventually into a decent season, but it's just taking time, that adjustment to this big changeover.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree in terms of it will fall for them. It will fall in their place. Their attacking options are good. In fact, good enough that they were looking to flock off John McAtee on transfer deadline day, who himself is a brilliant League One player on his day. That move to Barnsley didn't fall through. But actually, if you're happy with trying to see the move for that kind of player, then it just showed the quality that you possess. And yes, you're right. It's just a case of giving it time. The players will gel, get used to sort of how the manager wants to play, get used to playing with each other, and I think things will look better for Bolton in terms of moving up that league table, and more where they thought they might be, and where they think they could aim for.
To close off then, the other results. We mentioned Bolton there. They drew 1-1 with Leyton Orient. Lincoln City 1-0 winners at Burton Albion. Sonny Bradley, the birthday boy, was the goal scorer for Lincoln there. Mansfield Town 1-1 against Stevenage. Points shared with 2 goals in 4 second half minutes in that game. Northampton Town 1-0 winners against Blackpool. The pressure is back on Steve Bruce. Just one win in their opening 7 league games, with defeat again for Blackpool. AFC Wimbledon winning against Rotherham United 2-1 as they come from behind in that game. And then finally, Wigan Athletic winning 3-0 against Doncaster. A really woeful looking Doncaster for the first time this season. Enough said about that one. So thank you for joining us here on another episode of the League One Lowdown review show. Myself and Seb will be back same time, same place next week for another review episode. And in the meantime, Sam and Callum will be with you to preview the weekend's action to come. So thank you for watching, for listening. Remember to subscribe, to like, and to comment as well how your team got on over the weekend. And we'll see you next week here on the League One Lowdown.